in your conversation, you talked about, in your response to the last question, where I asked about ethical governance, you were talking about your platform. And I remember that. Integrity, fidelity, transparency. What was the fourth one? Truth, which falls right in line with your gifting, or your special gifting, which is your truth teller, right? So many Stonecrest citizens have voiced in different forums, right? Whether I'm in community talking with my neighbors, or I am reading something that was posted on Nextdoor, or I'm reading a thread in Stonecrest, Georgia Issues and News, or a thread on Stonecrest Citizens Coalition platform. So both of those are on Facebook, right? Or listening to the Stonecrest Weekly podcast. Many citizens have shared that they have been embarrassed and injured by some of the things that have happened in the city's short history, relatively short history. The allegations of financial mismanagement, collusion, corruption, cronyism, right, in city government. And many residents believe that the city has been scarred by these things, by the lack of transparency, by deliberate and intentional citizen disengagement. The initial promise of the city, right? The initial promise of the city is that we could do better if we had the power in the hands of the people rather than in the hands of DeKalb County. The promise was that a municipality would be built by, with, for the people, right? In collaboration and partnership with the people. And many have said that it's falling short of that. So considering all of those things, how are you involved in leading the city's transformation, restoration, and redemption efforts? And what hope do you offer Stonecrest residents who have been and feeling ashamed about where they live?
And so that's a mighty heavy question. Had lots of moving pieces and lots of things that we cannot overlook. That's the elephant in the city, not in the room. It's the elephant in the city. But what I will say is this. I believe that those who are engaged and want to see better will continue to let their voices be heard on many of those platforms that you talked about, and also hear the voice of the members who are striving every day to do something better than what we've seen play out. Transparency is a must. And I just ask the citizens who still believe that we can be Stonecrest proud to continue to work with your council member, your council representative, share your concerns, and let's move Stonecrest forward together. Now, when I say move Stonecrest forward together, that's not having apathy and just having conversations that don't yield a resolve. Talk to us. Let's be solution oriented. I can tell you, it is so important to have the right people in the right places at the right time. When I ran in 2017, I may have been the right person, but it wasn't my time. In 2019, the pieces came together because the right person was still here, but it was the right time. I will not stop working to ensure that what is presented as the government of Stonecrest is presented in such a fashion that I am operating with people who want the same. There's no place for special interest groups because the citizens of Stonecrest, they're the only special interest group that I'll be working on behalf of, period. Understanding that even as we think of our human body, if I broke my foot and it set up an infection that could not keep my foot, I need to cut that foot off, get me a new foot, and move forward, and move forward, and move forward. I will not sit and say, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. But what I will say is, my eyes are looking to ensure that everything that I say and do is working toward making constituents, citizens, visitors, anyone who comes into the city of Stonecrest, no matter how you come to Stonecrest, that you will not have any embarrassment. You won't feel slighted. You won't be proud to say that I live, I work, I worship, I get educated. I do all these things in Stonecrest, because when you have people who are in place, who understand what the truth represents and how the constituents have the control. Council doesn't have that kind of control as to who to choose to put in these seats. But when we have an engaged citizenry and they want to know about what's going on, and we as those persons who have been elected, we bring everything we can bring to you to make sure that you can make those decisions, it can only get better. And I just want to say that we owe it to ourselves. Now I'm a constituent right now. We owe it to ourselves to get the best out of what we asked for. You asked me to be your council member. You voted for me. You need to get the best out of me. Don't let me sit on the side and not do. Don't hold me accountable. That's the word. It's called accountability. And it's called ethical accountability. And it's called transparent accountability. And again, we hear these words, but we don't see them demonstrated all the time. I am here to continue. I'm asking for a full 4-year term to demonstrate that we can be a city where we all are proud. Those of us who want to be engaged, you know, when you want something, you go get it, right? You become a part of it. I'm asking citizens, please don't leave your city experience up to someone else. Come on to the table with us. Help us do this work. Help us move Stonecrest forward together, because that's the only way we can do this thing called good governance. It is a collaborative effort. I have to be engaged with my citizens and constituents. I have to hear from them. And I have to go and I have to do things that represents the best of what we have. And I want to be the best of what we have for not only District 5, but for the citizens and the city. So I understand there's lots of turmoil, lots of things that have gone awry that, you know, some of you just didn't think, you didn't want, don't like. I don't want anybody to say, and I'm trying my best to make my commitment to integrity and truth and transparency and fidelity. I'm trying my best to make that something that every citizen can say, oh yeah, She's doing it. She's doing what she said. And I feel good about living in Stonecrest. I'm glad I got a 30038 or a 30058. Oh yeah, my city is. I'm Stonecrest proud. That's coming. That's coming. But what I do want the citizens to understand right here, if I can just say this, City Council cannot unelect or elect any other elected official. That's not what we can do. Only citizens can do that. I'm gonna leave that PSA right there.
Very good. This is the space for that. So thank you for your PSA. I appreciate it, and thank you for the fullness of your response to that question. I definitely felt your I felt the hopefulness. I felt and heard your position that you believe the best is yet to come for this.
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
I heard the confidence. So yeah. I'm appreciative of that as a resident of the city, and one who found herself a resident of the city shortly after we closed on our house. So we thought we were purchasing in Lithonia, and they said, these folk done voted. What the?
Hey, how'd that happen? No. Look at my document. They said Lithonia. You said Stonecrest?
Yeah. Stonecrest. Okay. So it's all good. With your thoughts on jumping off from your previous response to that question, and you were talking about that you stated that residents need to be involved, right? And I think the word I want to use for that is advocacy, advocating for yourself and others near you, whether it's your homeowners association or your group of, whoever you are and wherever you are in Stonecrest. It could be you are residents, a group of residents and a local apartment complex, who meets and talks about things, or, whoever you are here. Tammy, and it's okay if I call you Tammy, right? Tammy is saying, okay. Tammy is saying that get involved, reach out to your council person, be involved in helping the city be great. With that in mind, we have seen here recently the reconstitution of commissions, committees, boards in the city. And there are several. I saw the space on the website. There's a caveat on the website that it's still, being built out. It's still being added to. And I get impatient sometimes when I go there and I don't see the agenda for the thing. I'm like, why is this not highlighted? And I have a whole list of things that I'll share later. But with that in mind, how do you see? I spoke with Councilwoman Cobble about this process that the city has for placing residents on the different boards, committees, commissions. And I have some thoughts about that. I will share them at a later time about what that process could look like and how to bring some equity to that process and not make it so reliant on the council person, because sometimes there's a disconnect between the resident and the council person. So how might we make that a more equitable process? But to your understanding, what advisory groups do you think that the city still needs? What commissions, committees, boards do you feel that need to be added so that we can have the city, the first class city that we desire?
So that's an excellent forward-thinking question. And let me say, I'm not sure, but also let me contextualize what's happening right now. Right now, in terms of my city brain, the biggest thing that faces, that's forward facing the council and the city, is being able to operate efficiently and effectively without the training wheels that we've used since our inception. We've used a management company since we have been the city of Stonecrest. It's no secret, and I'm not giving you confidential information, I'm giving you factual information, that as of December 31st, Stonecrest will no longer have that collaborative partnership with the management company. So come January 1, 2022, we will have no training wheels. Got to put on our big girls and big boys, and we got to go forward. And right now, that's where the energy, that's where all of our efforts collectively, even though we're running campaigns, yes, that's important, and we have to do that. But we have to continue to support our staff who are working feverishly to ensure that everything that we can have in place to be able to stand up without crutches, without training wheels, without anybody at our side, that we've done our due diligence. And we're running up until December 31st to make sure that happens. And so I'm not going to say that we have all of the boards, commissions, authorities that we might need. We have done what we've done with our charter so that we can have the things that we've said in our charter we want to have, with the exception of a couple. But it's okay. It's okay. It's not that they're not in existence. They're just on a little reprieve right now. So it's okay. It's okay. But what I really want to get that message across, that right now, there are a lot of things that I wish we could do to tie up years in, but there's nothing more important. Hear me clearly. There's nothing more important than standing this city up. Now, in 2017, we said the same thing. We're standing up the city. Well, it's a different kind of stand up now. We standing up the city, and we standing. We got nobody standing with us. We're standing. And so with that being said, we have to make sure that what we're doing, we're giving all of our time and attention to making sure that everything that we need in place and operational as best as we can, we're getting all those things in place. Then come the new year, we get everything settled, then we can start back where you were talking, the other committees, commissions, and boards and authorities that we may be able to, once we do this reflection, we may be able to say, hey, we might need to have X, Y, and Z, or over here, we might need to do something. Oh, you know what? We have a lot of this, and we can use somebody to help us with, yeah. So we're never closed to hearing what our constituents have to say, but timing is everything. And I just want everybody in the city to understand what the priority, the overall umbrella, not just the little spokes, but the overall umbrella right now is making sure that our spokes are strong and can hold us up. And so that's where we are right now. So I go back to answering your question. That I don't know. I'm not for certain, but I do know that there's room for hearing what our constituents have to say.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And tell me, what are the commissions, committees, boards, authorities that you sit on currently?
Well, I am a part of the SPLOS committee, which is that's heavy lifting, because that's lots of money. And I am also a part of our construction board of appeals. We've just set that, just had that board set up. Very, very important work. Very important work. When someone makes an appeal, you got to make sure you have people who know what the appeal could possibly be, what it entails. So that's another two heavy boards, two heavy committees I participate in. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
I think it's good for residents to be mindful too, of the fact that in addition to a full-time employment, right? In addition to full-time employment, you have to be attentive to the legislation, providing legislation for a city of nearly 60,000 residents, and being attentive. I know that there was some discussion of giving you all some support. I hope that happens. I think that you need it. So having some type of support, but also volunteers are wonderful, right? Volunteers are wonderful, but there is something significant to be said about dedicated paid labor. So, which is, say again?
I just saying that's so true.
It's so true. It's so true. So I hope that you all are able to get a person, a coordinator, an administrator to help be, you know, you and when you are not available.
And keep, you know, and just to make sure everyone still understands. These are part-time positions that require us as full-time as full-time as we can give. And that's another piece, you know, just making sure people have the correct information. Now, could this be full-time responsibility? It could be.
Yeah.
But we all knew when we signed and we were sworn in that these were part-time, you know, part-time positions. The city is not part-time. That's let's be clear.
Position is.
But this position in this capacity is quote unquote a part-time, but constituents know. 470-456-0066 is always on. And trust me, I get calls, I get texts, I get messages, and I am perfectly okay with that because I knew what I was signing up for. I knew what I was signing up for. Nobody, look, I'm being obedient. It's the only force there. I'm being obedient to this.
Yes.
But we all have to keep in mind not only why we're doing this from, you know, our moral piece, but we also have to know from a knowledge base. We knew this was part-time.
Yes.
Know how much. Yeah. So it's okay. It's good.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping that people will be mindful of. So when I said in addition to your full-time, I meant you have a full-time gig, right? So
that other public service piece.
Right. Tempering our expectations, not lowering. I think there's a difference between lowering your expectations and tempering your expectations, and also applying
that word.
Grace.
I like it. I'm writing that word down. I'll give you credit for it.
And applying grace to things. And I think there's always room for us to learn how to give more and more grace, because we certainly receive it on a daily basis.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that was good. Thank you for answering that question. I do want to ask about the charter. So you briefly touched on the charter, and that the council is trying to deliver on what the charter promises, but we know that the charter has to be reviewed in the first 5 years of the city. That's next year. Next year will, I think, be 5. So the charter has got to be reviewed before the end of next year. How will you participate in guiding the process, and how will you involve residents in that?
Well, here again, you want to make sure that we all go to things that we like, you know? Nobody likes to be forced to do something they don't quite like, you know? I would hope that when we do constitute that review committee, that we have constituents who want to be a part of it. You know, since it is going to be, I'm sure, volunteers, we want to have people who are interested and engaged in wanting to make sure that reviewing a charter is something they want to do. Don't want to have to say, oh, please come on, because I ain't got nobody. I just need to put your name down. That doesn't always get us the best of what we want. Someone saying, hey, I have expertise in this. I can lend my gifts and talents. Consider me. Yes, check. As my representative. That's what I'm hoping happens. And in many instances, you have that 80-20 piece, and 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people, almost 100% of the time. I'm really hoping that going forward, that as more citizens do get engaged, that we'll have a larger audience to choose from in terms of people who are interested and say they're interested and share their gifts and talents. I want to be on the forefront of saying just what I just said. Come ye that love the charter. Let's review. Let's review, because what we want to be found doing is what the charter says and what our policies say, what our legislation says. If we say within 5 years, before the end of the 5th year, that we need to have a charter review committee, let's do it. Or let's do an amendment to say, hey, if we don't think it needs to be 5, if we say 7, let's amend it and make it 7. But whatever we say we're going to do, we need to do it, or we need to amend it so that we are operating in truth and we're transparent about it. Because we got to move Stonecrest forward, but we have to do it together. That's just the end of it. And so I want to be found being, ringing the bell, being an advocate. Come. Let's get this work done. So, because that's not going to be fly by night. Because trust and believe, charter creation, charter revision is not fly by. It's not fly by night. It is something that you have to give good attention to, consistent. You must be able to collaborate and talk and proof and edit, change. Got to be flexible. Got to be So I feel certain that after January, and we have our city set up, we are doing what we need to do in terms of standing on our own, that we'll be able to get the wheels turning for those things that we have deadlines for. So I believe that's going to happen.
That's good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I like that you touched on citizen engagement and the need for it, right? I know that the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition is one such organization who is leading those efforts and championing those efforts to reach the citizens of Stonecrest with the word that their vote is their voice, right? Mm-hmm. And also with the understanding and the awareness that you should be vocal locally, right? So this is where your voice has the most power. It has the most access, right? Where you live, where you have purchased your home, where you are renting your spot, where you are working, where you are worshiping, where you are shopping, all of these things. So we're definitely one of the organizations that is about doing that work. Not the only organization. So grateful to the other organizations who are similarly involved in community engagement and outreach efforts. So I like that you lifted that up as well, and the need for that to be happening consistently. And with that thought, we're going to transition to our last segment. Thank you for rocking with me the way that you have. And I definitely appreciate the grace and patience that you are extending to me, and also your willingness to do this even after a very full day of community engagement. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're most welcome. I appreciate you giving these flexible, being flexible in being able to get with us anyway. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.